In this video, we're going to take a look at the constituents in the product Super Male Vitality. Constituent is Avena sativa, or wild oats. And I think David Winston in his book on adaptogens referred to oats as a nervine or nerve tonic. But here we're going to be talking about its potency. Bioassays using the ascorbic acid depletion test and protein chromatography indicate that Avena sativa wild oats does contain a compound similar in activity to GnRH, gonadotropin releasing hormone, what is called LH releasing activity in this earlier study. The molecules in question reacted with ninhydrin, which means it's not a prostaglandin, and also was similar but not identical to the decapeptide, which is GnRH. One compound that might contribute to some of the potency effects is avene anthramide, which acts as an antioxidant, antiproliferative, and has vasodilatory activity. Avena sativa in rats increased socializing activity as well as improved the shock avoidance learning, and in people, Avena sativa seemed to have some cognitive benefit, at least on some memory tests, like on a test of working memory, as well as tests on executive function. Sativa extracts given to healthy subjects did show a change in some of the brain waves as measured by EEG, and some of the changes were observed in delta and theta waves, which seem to be indicating a cognitive benefit. The next ingredient is Tongkat Ali, also known as Malaysian ginseng, but again it's not really related to ginseng, or longjak. Note of caution, there have been several instances where Tongkat Ali has been spiked, if it even had Tongkat Ali in there to begin with certain pharmaceuticals like sildenafil, Viagra, etc. So that's something to keep in mind. Some of the historical uses of Tongkat Ali includes use as a anti-cancer for diabetes, for potency issues, as well as for increased strength, energy, and exercise recovery. Some of the constituents in Tongkat Ali are pictured here, and they include urcomanolactone and urcomanol. These extracts of Tongkat Ali had anti-inflammatory and analgesic effects by inhibiting nuclear factor kappa B, NFKB, and subsequent the increased production of COX-2 and inducible nitric oxide synthase, INOS. Supplementation with Tongkat Ali as well as some amino acids did seem to improve strength gains in exercise training. A review of other Tongkat Ali studies does seem to indicate that it does help with erectile dysfunction difficulties. Next component is Catuaba, which translates what gives strength to the Indian. It is made from the bark of several different trees, including Trichelia and Urothroxylum. In addition, sometimes ilex is used, and Phyllanthus, and some other species as well. Catuaba, a product containing Catuaba, was shown to help with inflammatory pain, and as you can see here at the structure of some of the components of Catuaba, including catecholamines. One study indicated that Catuaba, a Catuaba containing compound, did have some vasorelaxing activity, perhaps involving nitric oxide, but subsequent studies seem to indicate that this may not be fully the case, as the second study showed that in rabbits, Catuaba, again containing Catuaba, that the relaxations were not due to nitric oxide or activation of the potassium channels. So that leaves the question, if it's not nitric oxide, what might also be involved in this vasorelaxing activity? A little bit of searching indicated that there are dopamine receptors in the corpus cavernosum, at least in rats, that perhaps aid in this pro-libido activity. Studies seem to indicate that Catuaba contains some dopamine-like activity, at least involved in the anti-nociceptive activity. Perhaps the dopamine-like activity in Catuaba signals to protein kinase G that is somehow involved in the pro-erectile activity of Catuaba. Here are a few other studies on Catuaba. The first two at the top seem to indicate that it has some antidepressant activity. The middle study seems to indicate that it has some anti-inflammatory properties that involve the inhibition of phospholipase A2. The study with rotenone was on a different bark, Catuaba mixture. And rotenone is a mitochondrial poison. It's sometimes used in like Parkinson's experimental models. And the last study at the bottom indicates that if you are female and are trying to get pregnant or are pregnant, you probably don't want to take Catuaba, as it does seem to affect implantation. The next component is Teicopetalum or Marapuama, also known as potency wood, and it's thought of as a nerve tonic in Brazil. I should point out that the Catuaba mixture encountered previously does contain Marapuama. Herbal BX, a mix of Marapuama and Ginkgo, did seem to increase libido, at least indicated by self-reporting. And a study in mice did indicate that Marapuama did have some improvement in memory retrieval in young and aging mice, which may be related to its acetylcholinesterase activity. A figure with some of the claridane diterpenoids in Marapuama that potentiate nerve growth factor activity. The last component in super male vitality is fulvic acid, a polyelectrolyte colloid that can attenuate its COX-2 expression and also has some anti-inflammatory activity, as well as the capacity to penetrate membranes. Super female vitality does contain an additional component called horny goatweed or Epimedium. Epimedium contains icariin, which has some inhibitory activity on phosphodiesterase E5, which is also what Viagra seems to target. Icariin improved a kidney yank syndrome that was induced by giving excess cortisol to rats, and it was thought to do this by activating the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. Extracts of Epimedium do seem to have some selective estrogen receptor modulatory activity where one receptor type is favored. Icariin, a component of Epimedium, does have some bone stimulating activity as well as some neurotrophic activity in a cavernous nerve injury model in rats. And at the top you see that Epimedium may stimulate aromatase activity. It is uncertain what the outcome of a aromatase activator would be in the presence of chemicals such as that found in Tribulus, as well as Marapuama, which do seem to bind to the estrogen receptor alpha, but whether they are agonists or antagonists is not yet fully elucidated. So that completes a survey of the constituents in super male vitality as well as super female vitality, and the following pages will have a list of references that were used. And thanks again for watching.